Take it away, Chino.
All right. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Sermon on the Mount.
Woo-hoo.
Here, both co-hosts, I guess.
Yeah,
We don't
today it's
really
just
know.
us two.
Just me
Brian,
and Marcos, just talking about purpose. That's
Yeah,
what we're
let's
going to be
go.
talking about. What
Yeah.
episode are we on?
This is gonna be our fifth.
It's the fifth episode, episode
Woo.
5.
Damn, dude, that's awesome, man.
That's sick, man.
Yeah,
I love it.
'cause
No,
We were all like, dude, we've been talking about this for a long time. Like, we
Sure.
got to do the podcast. We got to just start it, kick it off, and then I don't think we started doing anything about
Yeah.
it. And then the biggest fear is, what if we stop being consistent?
exactly.
But we're back
But
with
we're back.
another
It's-
episode this week.
It probably is taking a bit while. We're trying to get something
Yeah.
like a
Good
schedule set up.
But every week so
Yeah.
far, there's been a new episode.
Yeah. So we're gonna try to be a little bit more consistent. Hopefully, we're able to get
Yeah.
something going, rolling
sure.
at like a designated date. But at least we're doing it.
Yeah.
We're proud that we
We're
took
just trying to
initiative.
push it. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
trying to push it out now. So then eventually maybe we'll do Fridays or something. We'll
Yeah.
post. But right now we're like, here's all this content now. As much as we can, we'll post it whenever we can, as soon as we can.
Trying to pour out.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's a good way to start. Me and Brian were talking a lot about just the phases of where this is gonna kick off from, and we're like in this series. I think the Essentials series. Like we're talking about essential things as young men
Yeah.
and women that are Christian. So
Yeah, like if you're starting off your Christian life, and there's still things that you struggle with, and how to find the essentials. We talked about the identity.
we talked about
what was the first
confidence,
one?
confidence and peer pressure.
Confidence and peer pressure.
Yeah,
we
and
talked
that's why
about
today we're talking about
love.
purpose. Yeah, we also talked about love.
Love.
That one was like an interruption one because of
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. A lot of you guys found that really useful and helpful though.
Yeah.
They said they loved that episode. It's
That's
a really
right,
fun
yeah.
one. And so, but either way, we're like, this all has to do with who we are
Mm-hmm.
as believers and making sure we stand firm and that we stand on
Yeah.
solid ground. So
good.
that's why we're coming at you guys with an episode on purpose.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Man, where do we even start with purpose? I feel like there's just so many. There's so much to purpose.
Yeah, and I think we like the reason why we're like we had to talk about purpose is because when we were talking about identity, because this one mainly
Yeah,
picks up from the identity episode.
Before we had the break. Yeah.
Yeah, before that love break, the break on Valentine's Day. Yeah, we're like, okay, we confuse in that episode. Sometimes we talk more about purpose than identity,
Yeah, but I
because
think
they go hand in hand.
yeah, they go for sure hand in hand. If you know your identity, then you know what your purpose is, and
Oh,
if
yeah.
you know your purpose, then you know your identity.
Exactly,
They
or
go
at
hand in
least
hand.
like it's like identity will help you fulfill your purpose, but sometimes to get started into walking towards your purpose, you
Yeah.
got to know who you are first of all.
Exactly.
So it really does just go hand in hand. And so I think when we talk about purpose, we find ourselves in this mental state of we're like, dude, what is the meaning of everything?
What is
Like-
what is there to life? Basically, like
And-
why
and
am I here?
You get very like, dude, outer space, aliens, what is the meaning of all this? Like you get real deep into
Yeah.
this, with your friends. It's like, dude.
I think a lot of saying a lot of times I feel like we outscale ourselves, like right.
Yeah.
The world is huge, dude. There's
Yeah.
8 billion people on the earth,
Dude,
and it
for
seems
real,
like
man.
a lot. And I feel like people sometimes they stress about how are they gonna help all people. And I was like,
And
you
how
don't
do
have
we
to be
fit
helping.
in?
Yeah, you don't have to help all.
Yeah.
You don't have to fit in with 8 billion people. You got to fit around the people around you.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so talking about purpose, I feel like this little story that I'm gonna share with you kind of has to do with maybe purpose now. But I remember I was so mad when I read on the news like about. I don't know if this was Utah. That's probably why I felt like, oh dang, I can relate to this. But there was like an indoor soccer game, and the soccer players got mad at the ref,
Okay.
and they beat him up and they killed him.
Oh man.
And I was like 12, but I was mad and upset. I was
Yeah.
like, why would they do that?
That's
That's
crazy.
so unjust. That's not right. That's so evil. But like, I didn't know who they were. And it was kind of overwhelming to feel like, dude, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But at that age, you kind of like, okay, trying to figure out purpose in a world that's so big can feel overwhelming when you're like, dude, I don't even know where to start. But there's so much evil that kind of like makes me mad. But it's sometimes more we get paralyzed when we don't know where to start.
Yeah. I think where to start. Let's talk about where to start your
Where to
purpose.
start? That's a good question.
I think a lot of the times that we as people, it's like you're saying the world is so big that we get confused, and we also look at the world around us.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to find our purpose. Like last time I was saying on the episode of identity, we try to find the identity in riches and all that stuff.
Right.
But when you come into Christ, when I think it's Galatians. Hold on, let me pull it. 2:20. I have the Bible.
It's in Galatians.
Galatians 2:20. I like this. I love this. Thing. Oh yeah. I have it. It says, "I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me." Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, so basically,
Dude, Brian's preaching.
sorry, man.
He's about to start preaching. Are y'all ready?
Yeah, pulled out the Bible, man.
Yeah, dude. No.
Okay. But
Preaching,
where I'm getting to this is, I think it's like I was saying, we give ourselves a purpose when we're in the world, in the flesh. We try to find falsehoods
Yeah.
in things, in material things, and we make that our purpose. Let's say I'd say my purpose in life before was get rich, and
Yeah.
and that was it. Then that's the crazy part.
Yeah.
I'm like, I start thinking to myself, like now I'm like, well, I still want to get rich.
Yeah.
Problem is, what's after you get rich? Like, what are we gonna do after?
Like, really, what is the intention? Because purpose means intention. Purpose is like when you're unsure about purpose and you try to define your own purpose, you're like, well, my purpose in life means I'm going to be intentional about making money, or I'm going to be intentional. Like, when your purpose is on something that's so like, one day you have money and one day you don't, or one day you're there, one day the market crashes, or if you put you make your purpose all about trying to kind of surprise others, or trying to impress others. If you make that like everything you do is, I'm gonna get so much of everything, and I'm gonna get this, and I'm gonna get that, and you're making it your purpose to impress others, and then the day that they don't give you the comments that you wanted, the feedback that you expected, then everything that you were working for, your intention and your purpose, just boom.
Yeah.
Like, what's the meaning of
done.
that?
You're done. Yeah.
It's wasted time, it's wasted energy, and it's wasted life. And I think that's the biggest like frustration and fear, that as young teenagers and as we start getting older, we get more afraid of like, dude, am I wasting my life?
Yeah.
And that's when it's like, you got to ask yourself, okay, what is my purpose?
That's good. Yeah.
And that's where you got to really try to discover that. And obviously, like, the Word of God just really does push us to figuring out that, one, we've been called by God to fulfill a greater purpose than ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I think in general, it's going to be really good when you get to a place where you're like, dude, I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life.
That's right. Okay, so let's some quick stories. How did you get to find your purpose?
So the question is, do I know what my purpose is?
Do you know what your purpose is?
I know what my purpose is.
Okay.
I know what my purpose is, but because I specifically remember hearing a sermon one time, I don't know, she was a prophet lady in Florida a long time ago. I don't even remember her name, and that's the frustrating part. But she preached an amazing message, and I'm like, dude, this changed my life forever, because she was talking about how we had to, like, everybody asks that question, like, what's my calling? What am I called to do? And she said, it doesn't matter what you're called to do. The Word of God just tells us to be people who are going to serve others. And who are going to serve Jesus. And exactly what Jesus did is that he came to serve, not to be served.
Right.
And it's like, when you're here for the benefit of others, you're already walking in your purpose. And she said something about
that's good.
I know, right? She said, you could go your whole life without knowing what your calling is. But if you, as long as you're serving others and serving God, you're walking in your purpose, because your purpose is to serve others. And that's what Jesus came to show us.
I think it says it in Mark 1, literally in Mark 1. I don't know what the book of Mark, the Gospel of Mark is literally about how Jesus served.
Yeah.
And I think hold on. Now I got to look for it, bro.
Dude, look for it. But and I'll talk a little bit about more how that led on to me. But that message, I had already kind of understood that a little bit. I was already exploring that idea that your calling is, you're going to discover it when you're actually serving God. And some people will wait to serve God until they actually know what to serve in. And it's like, dude, you just got to walk and serve God, and then your calling will be discovered. It's not when I know what I'm called for, then I'll start serving. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
You'll never know what you're called to serve in if you never start serving anywhere.
That's right. Okay, look, I found it.
You found
Mark 1, verse 38. It says, they're talking about, Peter tells them, like, we got to go. We got to go into the other cities and preach. And then Jesus replied, let us go somewhere else to the nearby villages so I can preach there also. That is why I have come.
Dude, that's exactly. It's like, he's like, I know what I'm here for.
Yeah.
To go and do that, to go and serve the other cities, to go and preach to them. And it wasn't about Jesus sitting. Like the book of Mark demonstrates that a lot. It's like movement all the time.
Yeah.
They're always moving or something. It's always advancing.
They're going from town to town, town to town.
Yeah, and it's
reaching.
showing how the gospel was advancing. And so your calling in God, your purpose in God, you're not gonna find it sitting down doing nothing.
Exactly. So
Ever.
yeah, don't wait. Like, you don't have to wait for somebody to come and tell you this is your purpose. This is what you have to
Which
do.
a lot of people
Yeah,
wait.
a
Like
lot.
they're like,
A
oh, I
lot.
want to go to that conference where this
Yeah.
prophet's going because he's gonna call me by my name and he'll be like, you were called to do this and your purpose is to do that. And you're like,
I'm not
it's not
gonna.
always gonna be like that.
I feel like I've been there. Not that long ago. Maybe I'm not even gonna. I'm not.
Maybe
I'm gonna
like
be
literally
honest,
last
li-
3
literally,
weeks
like,
ago when Prophet Greg was here, I was like, tell me
Literally-
what my purpose is.
like probably like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not like I would wait for like a service, right? Because I feel like I was still pretty new to
Yeah.
church.
He
About
would
3
wear,
years
he
ago.
would wear the brightest
Yeah.
color shirt so that he would get called on from the
Literally,
altar.
bro.
Be like, you in the neon yellow shirt.
I would wait and,
God
and
says stop seeking for attention. No, I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
I would wait on and be like, oh God, I need a word from you.
Yeah.
Like, tell me what I have to do.
Yeah.
And the more I read the Bible, the more I notice that I was like, okay, I was like, Jesus has already given us a
Exactly.
purpose for all of us,
Yeah.
which is to go preach the gospel.
Like, and that's what Jesus' purposes was. Like Jesus' purpose wasn't for him to walk alone and forgive us in silence. Like Jesus was sent here with a purpose and a mission, and it's very clear that that's what Jesus told everybody, that he was here. He wasn't wasting time. He had 3 years of ministry to do this and that. And it was like to show us that how to do it. It was the example. He was the role model. Like when Jesus came to earth, it was to show us how it's done and how to walk in our Father's purpose.
That's
and
good,
so,
yeah.
and so at that point in my life, that's where I realized I'm like, okay, no matter where I am, as long as I'm here serving others, then I know God is using me because I've been called to be a servant.
Yeah.
A servant of
That's right,
Christ.
that's
And
right.
so if I can serve anybody in anything, then I'm all here for it. And then that started looking for me more personally. I love photo, I love video, like this, like editing these podcasts. Like this is me serving
Yeah,
or you
that's right,
because
that's right.
this is a talent that I figured out how to do that I love for myself. But I could be so selfish about it and edit other things for my own self, for my own portfolio, for whatever I want to do. That's never going to help others. But I start serving and I start walking in my purpose when I'm serving others through what God's given to me. So what that looks like in each other will look different, but it's always in God's purpose. And there's a Bible verse on it in Romans 8:28 that is really well known. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose.
Right.
It doesn't say that have been called according to each of their own purpose. It's God's purpose.
Yeah.
And so as long as I'm walking in God's purpose with what he's given to me, then I know that I'm doing the right thing.
That's right. And I like how it says in God's purpose, not in my purpose.
Not my purpose, God's
'Cause
purpose.
When the more you start to recognize is the
Yeah.
fact that if God gave you the goal, sorry to break it to you, you're never getting there. You're never getting
Yeah,
there.
dude.
Like it's literally like when you set a goal for yourself, it's like you try the most to like avoid it. I don't know. It's a very odd thing that we do as people. Well, like literally, like remember when we were going to Topgolf?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I know how to get to Topgolf.
And then
I knew
it's
I knew where I was going, and I don't know what happened.
With directions and GPS.
Yeah, I was driving, and I was like, I know my destination. I know how to get there. I know my the goal. And then as soon as he tells me, he's like, you sure you know how to get there? I'm like, yeah. I start going to the right.
He starts going off the wrong exit. I'm like, dude, you just told me 10 seconds ago you know how to get there and you're getting off on the wrong. He's like, oh yeah, you're right.
You see, I feel like that's like a
Yeah.
purpose can be like that. Like if you were to know your purpose, I feel like you would like never get there.
You would never get there.
I'd say
If purpose was a set answer
Mhm.
that meant this is you made it, then we would never make it because it's just look, God's plans are better than
What
our
we-
own plans and
yeah.
more than what we can imagine. And so when you think that you've already done it all and fulfilled it all,
Mhm.
like you're not done until God says you're done.
That's right.
And so if you're I don't know, really old person listening in the background because you have a teenager listening to this podcast, no matter how old you are, if you're not done, God's not done with you.
That's right. And God
So,
God can use you as long as you're breathing.
mhm.
God is going to use you.
Exactly. And then also just no matter how young you are,
Mhm.
it's God is using you already now to take you somewhere. So
Yeah.
Ryan, let's hear a little bit about you and purpose. Kind of what does that look like for you as far as like trying to discover it when you know that like the hardest thing is to just give an answer like this is
Mhm.
what I was made for and this is
Yeah.
my purpose. That's kind of the hardest part. But when did you realize that God's purpose was greater over your life than your own?
I'm gonna be completely honest. It hasn't been like a super long time. It's a very. I like this story. It was about a year ago. Remember, I did tell Mark. I didn't really tell much people, but one of my best friends actually had passed away. He lost the battle to cancer, and it broke me
Mm-hmm.
because I was coming to church. I was serving. I felt like I was calling myself like a Christian. I'm like, that's how it was. But I wasn't doing anything about it. And when my friend passed away, I had the most overwhelming guilt. I got the most guilt because I felt like I could have took the initiative to
Do
go
something about it.
to go and preach the gospel to him
Mm-hmm.
so that he be born again, because he wasn't a Christian. I don't, maybe somebody else, I don't know, maybe somebody else want to go preach him the good news.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else want to go help him.
But the
But
fact that
the
there
fact
was
is
a
that
connection and you didn't.
I
Yeah.
felt so strongly towards him, and I never want to go help him.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of started realizing, like, dang, like, what am I doing? That's when I started questioning myself
Mm-hmm.
as a new life, because we get a new life, right? When you accept Christ into your heart, you get a new life.
Right.
It's like I said earlier. But I think it still takes you a while to come into that purpose,
Yeah.
especially if you don't hear about it. That's why we wanted to
Yeah.
talk about it.
For
But-
sure.
And then, like, that guilt just got to me. I couldn't bear it. I basically, I got a little bit depressed. I didn't know what to do. I was just upset for the longest time. And then, I talked to Marcos about it.
Yeah.
And I remember that Marcos, it was late, right?
Yeah, it was at our house.
Yeah.
It was late. I don't know if you were just stopping by to drop something off.
I think it was.
And then we talked outside on the
Mm-hmm.
porch for a good time. And it was that reset, that reshift and refocus, because I could tell Brian was like off. There was something
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't there, and I was like, and it's super good to have people near you that are gonna help you in those times, because it just takes a little bit of reshifting your focus. Because Brian was doing all the things the right way. He'd been coming to church the right way. He'd been praying. He'd been studying the way that he needed to. But to look at it not as to blame himself, but to begin to look at it as like an impulse to walking into what God's called him to do.
That's right.
That's what that conversation probably did. It was a little reshift, because
Yeah.
you weren't far. And that's the thing, that when we're trying to discover a purpose, sometimes we feel like we're so far away, but it's like, dude, just turn your head and you'll see that God's been working in all of this all along.
So good. Yeah.
And so, and it's super awesome. And I think the hard part is that when we expect people who already understand their purpose to do something that they're supposed to do, instead of us discovering and starting to walk in our purpose, because the fear, we're afraid, we don't know what that's going to look like. And so maybe Brian was like, he could have waited for somebody who had been used by God to heal people and to do miracles. But instead of him waiting for the answer to come, maybe the answer was in him, and to have to be able to step out.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky part, to know the discover those first steps into your purpose. It's because you don't really have anybody who's helping you and guiding you and telling you this is what it looks like, this is what you should feel, and this is what you should say. But when you're taking that step, you're like, okay, I'm going to start praying for you. And I don't know if God can even use me in this, but you'll never know if you never try.
That's right. Come on.
And so you never know if laying your hand on that person is going to heal them And you're like, well, I mean, if I had that gift, how will you ever know you have that gift if you never try to pray for someone?
That's correct.
And so how will you ever know you're talented at something if you never actually try it? Or how will you ever know that God's gifted you with a certain wisdom or a certain grace to speak to a certain group of people, to people your age, or like in high school, you know, you can be somebody who's so quiet, but how do you know God's given you a talent to actually speak in front of thousands of people your age? It's like if you limit yourself and you say it's because I'm shy and I'm quiet, and you limit yourself to saying that's just the way that I am, you can probably miss out on something that God has for you.
That's right.
Unless you actually start doing it, you know. It's but that's so good. And so you're saying that opened your eyes to actually seeing
I think that
God's hand at work.
Yeah, and I think like I've had it. I think, you know, I've had it said to me twice that I had needed to go out and, you know, help out the youth, preach to the youth, teach the youth, and I had never taken that initiative. And I think I'm like saying that really opened my eyes to what I think that I was supposed to do. You know, I think a lot of us often we ignore God's voice, we ignore His signs. You know, we don't pay attention to Him.
Yeah.
So He has to reach you in a way or another, and that's another purpose. He can use another person's purpose to fulfill your purpose.
Exactly, because sometimes somebody's purpose is literally to call out the purpose of somebody else.
That's right.
I mean, that's what a lot of ministry leaders do, like the gifts and all that, to do all sorts of things that are amazing, like gifts of faith, gifts of miracles, gifts of healing is awesome. But if there's not like a pastor there to call it out, or a prophet to impulse them and push them to be like, hey, don't be afraid to do this. Step up, you know, a pastor can sometimes identify those things and try to activate and empower somebody to actually start doing it. And for them to actually believe, oh yeah, I can be used by God to do this and to do that. And so that's really awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing that testimony. Cause it's a real thing. It's real struggles. And I don't think anybody ever really wants to have to go through such painful situations for them to discover their purpose. But it's sometimes in those hardest places, in the darkest places where God works the most and where God does a lot of things.
I like how you say that. I remember the story of Jacob.
Yeah.
Jacob, he just went down and he used the rock as a pillow. And that's and that hard place, he was probably freezing cold. He was probably uncomfortable. But that's where he had this vision. That's where
God showed him. That's where he wrestled with God. That's where everything took off. Like that's where he was given a new name, like new vision,
new name, new purpose, right?
Exactly. And so isn't that like a representation? Because Jacob all his life was running away. He was trying to get away because he wanted something that never belonged to him, so he could never fit in. And in those lonely, dark places when you feel like you don't fit in, that's where God gives you some of the greatest victories that you've ever experienced in your life. That's right. So, but that's really awesome. And if there's anybody who's listening and you're asking, so what do I start doing to walk in my purpose? Be faithful to serving. To serving, and don't be like, there's a lot of titles, there's a lot of names, there's a lot of gifts that you can get distracted by. You're like, oh, dude, do you want to be a pastor, an evangelist, an apostle? Like, I mean, that'll all come, but a title at the end does not make you that. It's a title.
Is a title.
A title is a title, but who you are, what your purpose is, when you know what you're meant to do, you're gonna serve God. And if you're meant to be a pastor, you don't need to pastor or have like a whole building. You don't need to plan worship experiences. You don't need to plan the greeting team, and then you have to do all these teams for you to be like, oh, now I'm a pastor. No, a pastor is taking care of sheep. It's taking care of those who need to be cleaned, who need help and guidance. So if you do that with like my mom who does that with her kids, she is a pastor, pastoring her own kids, guiding them and discipling them to do good things in life. And so if you wait for a certain title or like a certificate that says you are now a prophet, here you go, like that day will never come. You have to start walking and believing God with what He's already given you.
That's right. That's why. Okay, I want to put it in this way. Now you say, to get a title in the world. Let's say like if you go to school to get the title of a doctor, you gotta go through the school. You gotta go through the process, through the courses. And the courses for us Christians before we can get a title is preaching the word,
Yeah.
spreading the gospel,
Serving
spreading the good.
others.
Yeah.
And stepping out of your comfort zone, trying to do something new, trying to do
Mhm.
something different, and that'll start like if you are young and you want to start discovering your purpose, I'm gonna tell you this: volunteer at your church.
Okay,
It might
that's good.
it might not have something to do directly with what you want to do. You might say, well, I want to fly throughout different nations. It's like, okay, if you want to do that, but maybe start serving in the serving team here, like the welcome committee group or something like that, or start serving by holding a camera. You're like, but holding a camera looks nothing like flying through the nations. But yeah, when God does take you through the nations, maybe you won't be afraid to take a camera with you and show the world
What's going on?
what's going on all
What are you
around
doing,
you.
right?
And so don't be afraid to serve. That's in the worship team, and that's literally cleaning. And the last thing anybody ever wants to do is the hard stuff. But when you're willing to do all the hard stuff, then you are faithful in the little, and God will put you into greater things. He'll give you even better stuff. Because and that's really where the blessing comes from. So do you have any advice for guys and girls trying to figure out their purpose?
I think you said it. I think you explained it
My bad.
great. No, I love it. Yeah.
Took all the words out of his mouth.
I mean, that's how the apostles were able to figure out their purpose. By serving, they went out to the nations and served the nations. They went out and preached, and they slowly started finding their purposes. You know, and that's what their purpose was. Their purpose was to teach and to establish a church.
Yeah, and so disciples are also considered students.
Yeah, students.
And so they were students. They became apostles after they were commissioned, to go out into the world and to make more disciples. But it's like the apostles discovered their purpose by walking with Jesus, not waiting till Jesus told them, okay, first do this, this, and that, and then come back to me when you're ready, and then I'll send you to the missions. No, Jesus said,
Go out.
follow me from the very beginning. Follow me. Just come with me. Leave everything behind. Don't even worry about it. Don't ask any questions. If you want to see better things, just follow me. And so they left that aside. And their school began when they decided, I'm going to walk with Jesus. Not, well, Jesus, first, make sure you get yourself known out there and do some miracles first. And then when I hear really good things about you, then I'll decide if I want to actually get a job in this position. It's like, no, it's walk with me, with me,
And I like the fact that you say, like, just walk with me. And I think it's also another important thing is that to find your new purpose, you have to leave the old one behind.
Yeah.
It's Peter, he left his, he was a fisherman.
Yeah.
And Jesus told him, you're not a fisherman anymore. Now you are a fisher of men.
Yeah,
He told him, leave your old purpose behind. What you thought you were meant to do, give it up, follow me, and I'm gonna give you that new purpose that you have for your life.
Exactly, dude. Brian's preaching. Preach, Chino. But it's that. This is a beautiful thing about Jesus, where it's like he recognizes, because like Peter was a professional. That's how he made money, by fishing.
That's what he did.
That's what he did. And in the eyes of any normal person, he fished. But in the eyes of Jesus, he fished for something greater. He fished for treasure. He fished for purpose. He fished for people who would transform this world.
I love that. He saw beyond
Yeah.
what Peter thought
Exactly.
that he was the best at.
And so, guys, there's so many things in the Bible that God does through people where they're like, but I'm not enough.
That's
I'm not capable. And God is like, what is in your hands? And whatever is in your hands right now, it might feel insignificant. It might feel like your whole life, you've had nothing but meaningless stuff. But trust me, there will come a point where God will speak to you. And this, I believe it, that God will ask you what's in your hands. And when you show him what's in your hands and you surrender that to God, he's just going to bless you in a new way. And what he already put in your hands was there all along. And is going to use it to transform lives and to just change atmospheres and to change like thousands of people, young people, older people. And so what's in your hands, guys?
What's in your hand?
What's in your hands?
So let me say this one more thing about I think Mary is one of the best examples of a purpose. Mary. Okay. I feel like in the eyes of the people, Mary's purpose was insignificant. What? She just had a kid. That's it.
Yeah,
that was her purpose.
Anybody can have a kid, but it's like, but Mary.
And what was Mary's purpose? Her purpose was to be the mother
of the Son
of
of
the
God.
Son of God.
Like
And
to
that
carry, yeah.
and that was her purpose. And here's another thing, is that I think after you find your purpose, it can still hurt.
Mhm.
Like I'm saying, Mary, her purpose was to have Jesus, and in the end of the day, she had to watch him get crucified.
Yeah, because it's not just that her purpose is just that.
Mm-hmm.
She had a life after that too, which was like as a testimony. It was, dude, she carried Jesus in her womb, and she saw him. She raised him, and she saw Jesus be crucified, and everything behind everything. Like, what a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
But what a
Seriously.
blessing. But because it's not just one thing, it's one thing that starts and then leads to another.
Mm-hmm.
And then God uses that to lead it to another. And God's way of using things is there's an infinite possibilities. God's creative grace is really has no limit. So
Yeah. Let me leave you guys. Let me say a little quote for you. God doesn't see you for what you're doing right now. He's looking at you and seeing what you're going to be.
mic drop.
Come on.
Bro, that's so good.
All
All
right.
right. Well, awesome. Hey, well, thank you so much, guys, for listening to this podcast. I feel like today was super educational. I think it was, we said it, dude, you were on fire. I don't care if anybody doesn't comment. You guys were on fire, but I'm saying that right now, dude. This is so good. Awesome. All right, Brian. Well, we'll next episode till next episode.
Yeah, we're gonna go into next episode. We're gonna be talking about a little bit more of purpose, and we're gonna get
Refining direction.
Yeah,
stuff like
finding
that.
direction. But we wanna, so
Mhm.
we're gonna
Yeah.
tell them what we're thinking about for next episode.
We'll just keep it a surprise.
All right, we'll keep it a surprise.
But do it the Jesus way. Whatever
Yeah.
y'all do it the Jesus way.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So we'll see you guys on next week's episode. Let us know in the comments what you guys thought about today. If there's any thoughts, if you think there's anything that we were missing, but go ahead and share this video with your grandma.
Yeah.
Go ahead and share it
What's
with
your
your
grandma?
cat,
What's
your
your
dog.
grandpa?
Yeah, turn
The
it
mailman.
on. The mailman. Turn on your living room full volume at 2 a.m.
Mhm.
so that your whole neighborhood hears it. But yeah, subscribe, hit like, and we'll see you guys next
Yeah.
time. Turn on
Thank
the
you guys.
notification bells.
Thank you for the support as always.
Yeah, and
We appreciate it.
if you are part of the youth at Mountain City Church, just giving you guys a heads up if you guys are hearing this. I don't know when you guys are going to hear this, but we do have a very exciting, very, very exciting announcement coming soon. So you guys keep.
Before it's if you guys watch this, if you guys come to Mountain City Church, if you're anybody that's watching this is from Mountain City Church, we're gonna be having baptism soon.
Yeah, this week, and we're going to do it I don't remember exactly if it's every month or every month and a half, but we're going to do this also
Yeah.
for the youth.
If you guys are interested in the baptisms, like just
Yeah.
drop it and we'll try to get something
Let's do
figured
it.
out.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you guys on the next
episode.
Sermon on the Mount.
Sermon on the Mount. Thank you
Sermon on
guys. Let's
the
go.
Mount. Sermon on the Mount. All right. That was so fire, bro.